Uncle Ben is one of the most pivotal characters in Spider-Man's life, often remembered simply as Peter Parker's caring uncle. But behind his kind image lies a darker story rarely explored. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden truths about Uncle Ben and how his death shaped Spider-Man forever. Uncle Ben's death wasn't just tragic, it was the defining moment that turned Peter into a hero. But who was Uncle Ben really? Why was his death so important? Many think he was just a loving guardian, but the reality is far more complex. His character represents not only family, but the heavy price of responsibility in Peter's world. The famous phrase, "With great power comes great responsibility," comes from Uncle Ben. But the origins of this phrase and its true meaning have deeper roots in comic lore. Uncle Ben wasn't Peter's biological uncle, but his aunt's husband, making him a family figure and moral compass. He taught Peter values of honesty, courage, and selflessness from a young age. Though his role is often small in screen time, his influence is massive in the storyline. Some versions show Uncle Ben as a flawed man with secrets, others as a pure hero. In every story, his death triggers Peter's transformation from a normal teen to a crime-fighting. Let's dive into the real story behind Uncle Ben and what it means for the Spider-Man mythos. Benjamin Parker was a modest man, living a quiet life with strong moral beliefs. He worked hard and was devoted to his family, especially Peter, whom he raised after the death of Peter's parents. He was a symbol of stability and love in Peter's turbulent life. His wisdom and kindness shaped Peter's early years and taught him right from wrong. In some comics, Uncle Ben's past is more complicated than just a loving guardian. Certain versions hint he had secrets and struggles not fully revealed to Peter. Despite this, his core message about responsibility remained unchanged. He believed in using one's abilities for the greater good, a lesson Peter took deeply to heart. Uncle Ben's tragic murder, often blamed on a random criminal, is more layered in some comic arcs. His death represents the failure of justice and the high cost of crime in New York City. Peter's guilt over not stopping the killer himself fuels his determination to protect others. Uncle Ben's influence echoes through every challenge Spider-Man faces. He symbolizes the humanity that keeps Peter grounded despite his superpowers. Without Uncle Ben's death, Spider-Man would never have embraced his heroic path. Understanding Uncle Ben's real story helps us grasp the complexity behind Spider-Man's motivations. The phrase "with great power comes great responsibility" is synonymous with but surprisingly, it wasn't originally spoken by Uncle Ben in the earliest comics. The line first appeared in a narration box in Amazing Fantasy number 15, the first Spider-Man comic. Later, adaptations gave this phrase directly to Uncle Ben, making it his defining lesson to Peter. This shift shows how storytelling evolves to deepen emotional impact. The phrase captures the essence of Peter's struggle between personal desires and heroic duty. It's a moral compass guiding Peter through his darkest moments. Many fans think Uncle Ben was the sole source of this wisdom, but it's more complicated. In some versions, Peter learns this lesson only after Ben's death, symbolizing regret and growth. The phrase has become a universal motto for heroes beyond Spider. It reminds us that power, whether physical, mental, or social, requires accountability. Uncle Ben's legacy is immortalized through this lesson, making it timeless. Understanding the phrase's origin reveals deeper layers of Spider-Man's mythology. It's not just a catchphrase, but a burden Peter carries every day. This weight defines the conflict at the heart of Spider-Man's story. Uncle Ben's death is the catalyst that changes Peter's life forever. In the classic story, Peter lets a criminal escape, who later kills Uncle Ben. This guilt haunts Peter, teaching him that inaction has consequences. The murder isn't just a plot device, but a profound lesson on responsibility and justice. In some comic versions, the killer is a small-time thief, while others give him a more detailed background. The randomness of the crime highlights the dangers lurking in Peter's world. Uncle Ben's death pushes Peter to adopt his Spider-Man persona to prevent others suffering. Without this tragedy, Peter might have remained selfish and reckless. The emotional impact of losing Uncle Ben drives Peter's determination to fight crime. Some storylines explore the aftermath of Ben's death on Aunt May and Peter's mental health. The event serves as a constant reminder of what Peter stands to lose. It also underlines the fragility of life and the consequences of choices. Peter's promise to honor Uncle Ben's memory fuels his heroic journey. Uncle Ben's murder symbolizes the high stakes of being a hero. This moment defines Spider-Man's origin and shapes every story after. Over the decades, comics have reimagined Uncle Ben's story multiple times. Some versions show him alive or surviving longer, altering Peter's motivations. Other retellings add layers to his background, such as military service or secret pasts. In the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, Uncle Ben's death is more violent and impactful. The Spider-Man Life Story series shows a more realistic, aging Uncle Ben. These alternative takes explore themes like loss, grief, and legacy differently. Retcons sometimes question whether Uncle Ben's death was necessary for Peter's heroism. Some stories hint at Peter's destiny being tied to Ben's sacrifice. Others focus on how Peter struggles with the trauma for years. Despite changes, Uncle Ben's death remains a core part of Spider-Man's mythos. Fans debate whether these retcons add depth or confuse the original message, but all agree Uncle Ben's influence is central to Peter's moral code. These evolving stories keep Spider-Man relevant for new generations. They show how Uncle Ben's legacy adapts, but never fades. Each retelling honors the original lesson while exploring new emotional ground. Losing Uncle Ben profoundly affects Peter's mental and emotional health. Peter suffers from survivor's guilt and intense remorse for not stopping the killer. This trauma shapes his personality, sometimes making him brooding and isolated. The responsibility he carries weighs heavily on his young shoulders. Psychologists say Uncle Ben's death is the defining trauma in Peter's life. It triggers his need to control the chaos around him through heroism. Peter's sense of duty often clashes with his personal desires for a normal life. This internal conflict creates tension throughout Spider-Man stories. The loss also forces Peter to mature quickly and face harsh realities. His guilt drives him to be hypervigilant and protective of loved ones. At times, it leads to self-destructive behavior and loneliness. Spider-Man's witty humor often masks his pain and vulnerability. Uncle Ben's death haunts Peter in dreams and flashbacks repeatedly. Understanding this psychological weight deepens our empathy for It shows that even heroes carry scars from their past. Uncle Ben's teachings are the foundation of Spider-Man's ethics. His emphasis on responsibility guides Peter's every action as a hero. Without this moral compass, Peter might have misused his powers. The idea that power demands accountability comes directly from Ben's lessons. Peter often reflects on what Uncle Ben would say when making tough decisions. Ben's influence helps Peter resist temptations and selfish choices. This guidance shapes Spider-Man's relationships with other heroes and villains. His sense of justice is deeply personal, rooted in family values. Uncle Ben's memory reminds Peter why he fights, even when it's difficult. This legacy separates Spider-Man from more ruthless. He believes in protecting everyone, not just the powerful or privileged. Ben's impact extends beyond words. It's a code Peter lives by daily. Spider-Man's humility and compassion trace back to Ben's example. In many stories, Peter honors Ben by mentoring others, passing on the lesson. Uncle Ben's role is crucial in defining Spider-Man's heart and soul. Uncle Ben has been portrayed in many movies, cartoons, and games over the years. Each adaptation adds its own spin on his character and death. In Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, Uncle Ben's death is iconic and emotional. The Amazing Spider-Man films emphasize the tragedy, but add new twists. Animated series often highlight Ben's wisdom and influence on Peter's choices. Video games used Uncle Ben's story as a motivation for Spider-Man's missions. Some adaptations soften or change the circumstances of his death for audiences. Despite variations, Uncle Ben's core message remains consistent. His death scene is often a turning point in Spider-Man's origin story. Actors' performances bring warmth and gravity to the role. Fans feel a deep emotional connection to Uncle Ben's character. His role transcends media, becoming a symbol of loss and hope. Pop culture keeps Uncle Ben's memory alive for new fans. He represents the human costs behind superhero legends. Through media, Uncle Ben's legacy continues to inspire and teach. Some critics argue Uncle Ben's character is underdeveloped or overly simplified. They feel his role is mostly a plot device to motivate Peter. Others say the dead mentor trope is overused in comics and films. There are debates about how much Uncle Ben actually influenced Peter's personality. Some versions portray him as almost perfect, ignoring any flaws or complexity. Fans sometimes wish for more stories exploring his life and struggles. The randomness of his murder has been criticized as a lazy storytelling choice. Some argue it perpetuates the idea that tragedy is necessary for heroism. There's discussion on whether Peter's guilt is realistic or exaggerated. The phrase "with great power comes great responsibility" has been overused, losing impact. Despite criticisms, Uncle Ben remains an essential symbol in Spider-Man lore. He embodies the emotional core that humanizes Peter Parker. The controversies show the challenges of balancing legacy with fresh storytelling. creators continue to explore new angles on Uncle Ben's role and meaning. These debates keep the character dynamic and relevant. Uncle Ben's story is much more than just a tragic backstory for his death shapes Peter's identity and defines his purpose as a hero. The lessons Ben taught are the heart of Spider-Man's moral code and journey. Though his screen time is brief, his impact is enormous and lasting. Understanding Uncle Ben's darker truths enriches our view of Spider-Man's character. He reminds us that heroism often comes from pain and sacrifice. The phrase "with great power comes great responsibility" resonates across generations. Uncle Ben is a symbol of the costs behind the mask of every hero. His legacy inspires not only Spider-Man, but fans worldwide. Through loss and love, Uncle Ben teaches us about courage and accountability. Spider-Man's story wouldn't be complete without him. As new stories emerge, Uncle Ben's influence endures. Remembering Uncle Ben means honoring the humanity at the core of every hero. His dark truth adds depth and meaning to one of the world's greatest superheroes. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more deep comic stories from USA Comic Man.